Uber's the most ethically challenged company in Silicon Valley.
Uber, 40 billion, they're raising money. That's the alleged valuation.
There was 40,000 drivers. Today is 160,000 drivers.
So now those dudes who sued me are now paying me.
What was missing really was revenue.
Uber is hemorrhaging cash, more than $1.2 billion in losses.
And employing black hat competitive strategies.
Company revealed hackers stole data on 57 million drivers and riders in October 2016.
The ride-hailing company Uber faces another setback in the United Kingdom.
Uber, the app that changed how the world moves. But what if I told you its journey from brilliance to scandal was just as dramatic as the rides it offers? From a simple idea sparked on the streets of Paris to a tech empire worth billions, Uber's rise seemed unstoppable until the cracks began to show. Data breaches, cover-ups, legal battles. How did the app millions trust with their daily commutes end up in the middle of one of the biggest corporate scandals of our time? Stay tuned, because this story will take you on a ride you won't forget. Chapter 1. The Rise of Uber. It all began when Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp, frustrated by not finding a cab one winter night in Paris, thought, what if you could just tap a button and get a ride? This simple idea was the start of Uber. In 2009, with smartphones becoming popular, Garrett, who had already founded StumbleUpon, worked on the idea of a ride-hailing app. Travis, having sold his company Red Swoosh, joined him, and together they started UberCab in 2010 in San Francisco. Initially, the app was for a small group to hail luxury black cars, making the experience of booking a ride easy and quick. Instead of waving for a taxi, users could tap their phones and a car would show up, with payments handled automatically. The service was exclusive at first, targeting professionals. It wasn't just about luxury. It solved a common problem: finding reliable transportation. In busy cities like San Francisco, finding a taxi was difficult and paying could be a hassle. Uber's app changed that by showing available cars nearby and letting users pay without cash, which people found very convenient. One standout feature was the real-time tracking that let users see exactly where their car was, adding reliability. However, UberCab faced a legal challenge early on. The San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency sent a cease and desist letter claiming it was operating without proper permits. Travis responded by renaming the company to just Uber and distancing it from the traditional taxi service. Uber's growth spread quickly by word of mouth. The app's convenience and luxury attracted more users, and Uber's referral program, where users could earn free rides, helped it grow fast. The key to Uber's success wasn't just about luxury. It was offering a better solution to transportation issues faced by people everywhere. Chapter 2. Uber's global success. After its success in San Francisco, Uber set its sights on the world. The company knew that the transportation problems it solved in one city existed everywhere: long waits, unreliable taxis, and confusing payment methods. The vision for Uber grew beyond luxury cars to revolutionize transportation in every major city. By 2016, Uber was operating in over 500 cities globally, including New York, London, and Paris. Their aggressive expansion strategy was bold. They would start operating in new cities before working out the legal details. This led to conflicts with taxi unions and regulators who felt Uber was avoiding the rules. However, this approach allowed Uber to quickly capture markets. Uber's technology played a big part in its global success. The app worked the same no matter where you were. Whether in Paris or New York, the app showed nearby cars, estimated wait times, and tracked rides in real time. It also made payments easy with automatic credit card charges, which travelers appreciated. This consistency built trust worldwide. To make Uber more affordable for everyone, UberX launched in 2012. This service allowed regular people with everyday cars to become Uber drivers. It made Uber accessible to a broader audience, not just professionals. UberX created a new gig economy, letting people earn extra income by driving on their own time. Though Uber's expansion was rapid, it wasn't without challenges. Traditional taxi drivers protested against Uber in many cities, with some even going on strike. In countries like France, drivers blocked roads. And in places like China, Uber had to compete with local companies like Didi Chuxing, which eventually led Uber to sell its Chinese business. Despite these obstacles, Uber continued to grow, offering not only convenience but a new way for people to earn money by driving. As Uber expanded globally, its name became synonymous with ride-hailing, and people started using Uber as a verb, showing just how influential the company had become. Chapter 3. The First Signs of Trouble. As Uber expanded worldwide, cracks began to show in its foundation. The company was growing fast, but behind the scenes, it was dealing with internal problems, legal battles, and unhappy drivers. One major issue was Uber's aggressive and cutthroat company culture, which pushed employees hard but created a toxic work environment. Uber's CEO, Travis Kalanick, was known for being bold, but his leadership style encouraged unhealthy competition. In 2017, a former Uber engineer, Susan Fowler, exposed this culture by detailing her experiences with workplace harassment, which went viral and revealed deep problems within Uber. At the same time, drivers were becoming frustrated with Uber. Since they were classified as independent contractors, they didn't receive benefits like healthcare or paid leave. Uber's surge pricing, which increased fares during busy times, often angered drivers when changes in the pay structure cut their earnings. Uber also faced rising competition, especially from Lyft in the US. Lyft marketed itself as a more driver-friendly alternative to Uber. Internationally, local competitors like Didi Chuxing in China and Ola in India were becoming stronger, making it difficult for Uber to dominate in those markets. In 2016, Uber had to sell its Chinese business to Didi after failing to beat them. Regulatory issues also plagued Uber. In cities around the world, taxi unions and governments protested that Uber was breaking the rules. Uber's business model didn't always fit into existing laws, leading to legal battles. In places like Paris, taxi drivers held violent protests against Uber. These challenges made it hard for Uber to keep growing without conflict. Uber's win-at-all-costs attitude started causing public backlash. One of the biggest controversies was its surge pricing, which drastically increased fares during emergencies or bad weather. This led to stories of riders paying outrageous amounts during Hurricane Sandy in New York, hurting Uber's reputation. Despite these problems, Uber continued to grow, but the warning signs were clear. The company's internal culture and business practices were leading to trouble. Chapter 4. The 2016 Data Breach. In 2016, Uber faced one of its darkest moments, a massive data breach that exposed the personal information of 57 million users and drivers. Hackers gained access to Uber's cloud servers through login credentials found in a private GitHub repository used by Uber engineers. The stolen data included names, email addresses, phone numbers, and driver's license numbers. Instead of reporting the breach, Uber chose to cover it up. The company secretly paid the hackers $100,000 to delete the stolen data and keep quiet. Uber's leadership, including CEO Travis Kalanick, believed that hiding the breach would protect the company's reputation and avoid negative press. They even tried to disguise the payment as part of a bug bounty program, which rewards ethical hackers for finding security flaws. For over a year, Uber kept the breach hidden. But in 2017, after Kalanick stepped down as CEO and Dara Khosrowshahi took over, the truth came out. Khosrowshahi made the decision to publicly disclose the breach, admitting that Uber had made a mistake in how it handled the situation. The revelation shocked the public. Users and drivers felt betrayed. Not only had their personal data been stolen, but Uber had kept it secret. The company's reputation took a major hit, and it faced lawsuits and regulatory investigations as a result. This breach exposed the dangers of Uber's win-at-all-costs culture. By trying to protect its image, Uber had put millions of people at risk. The cover-up would later become one of the biggest scandals in the company's history, and it marked the beginning of a series of legal and financial troubles for Uber. Chapter 5. The Secret Ransom Payment. After discovering the 2016 data breach, Uber's leadership made the controversial decision to pay the hackers $100,000 in exchange for deleting the stolen data. Instead of informing the public or regulators, Uber chose to cover up the breach, believing that paying the ransom would protect the company's future. Uber disguised the payment by pretending it was part of their bug bounty program, which rewards ethical hackers for identifying security flaws. The company's leadership, led by Travis Kalanick, wanted to avoid bad press and maintain the company's market position as it prepared for its IPO. However, paying the hackers was a huge risk. There was no way to verify whether the stolen data was truly deleted, and Uber was essentially negotiating with criminals. This decision raised serious ethical concerns, as it showed that Uber was willing to compromise user safety and security to protect its reputation. Internally, Uber ordered employees involved in the breach to stay quiet. For more than a year, the company continued to operate as if nothing had happened. But when the truth eventually came out, it became clear that the cover-up was far more damaging than the breach itself. The decision to hide the breach would later backfire, as Uber faced lawsuits, regulatory fines, and widespread public backlash. It was a turning point for the company, marking the beginning of its fall from grace. Chapter 6. The breach becomes public. In 2017, after Dara Khosrowshahi took over as Uber's CEO, the truth about the 2016 data breach came to light. Khosrowshahi, who was brought in to fix Uber's damaged reputation, decided to publicly disclose the breach. He admitted that 57 million users and drivers had their personal data stolen, and that Uber had paid the hackers to keep it quiet. The public reaction was swift. Users and drivers were outraged that Uber had hidden the breach for over a year. The company's decision to pay the hackers instead of informing the public felt like a betrayal. Khosrowshahi issued an apology and promised to improve Uber's security and transparency. But for many, the damage was already done. The media seized on the story, and Uber's reputation was further damaged. News outlets framed the breach as part of a larger pattern of unethical behavior at Uber, highlighting the company's history of scandals under Travis Kalanick's leadership. Uber's competitors, like Lyft, capitalized on the situation, presenting themselves as more ethical alternatives. Regulators quickly launched investigations into Uber's handling of the breach. In the U.S., the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, and state attorneys general opened inquiries, while authorities in Europe, Canada, and Asia did the same. Uber faced legal action for failing to notify users of the breach in a timely manner. Uber's decision to hide the breach resulted in a $148 million settlement with U.S. states, one of the largest data breach settlements in history. The company also faced class action lawsuits from users and drivers affected by the breach. The breach had long-lasting effects on Uber's reputation, and it became a symbol of the company's willingness to prioritize profits over ethics. Chapter 7. Legal troubles begin. Once Uber's 2016 data breach became public, it faced a wave of legal challenges. Governments and regulators around the world launched investigations into how Uber handled the breach, questioning whether the company had violated data protection laws by hiding the incident. In the United States, the Federal Trade Commission, FTC, led an investigation into whether Uber's actions were deceptive, as companies handling sensitive personal information are required to disclose breaches. State-level regulators also took action, with attorneys general from New York, California, and other states accusing Uber of violating state data breach notification laws. Internationally, Uber faced scrutiny from European regulators for not complying with data protection regulations. Countries like the United Kingdom, Germany, and Canada launched their own investigations into Uber's handling of user data. In Europe, Uber's actions raised concerns about its commitment to following privacy laws. Uber agreed to a $148 million settlement with U.S. states to resolve claims that it had failed to notify users and drivers of the breach in a timely manner. This settlement also required Uber to improve its security practices, undergo regular audits, and ensure better reporting of future breaches. In addition to the regulatory investigations, Uber faced multiple class action lawsuits from users and drivers whose data was compromised. Drivers, especially, were upset that their license numbers were exposed, putting them at risk of identity theft. Many felt Uber had failed to protect their information and demanded compensation. Uber's legal troubles had a significant financial impact on the company. The costs of settlements, legal fees, and cybersecurity improvements added to Uber's already challenging financial situation. Rebuilding trust with both drivers and users after the breach proved difficult, as many were skeptical about Uber's ability to keep their data secure. Under new CEO Dara Khosrowshahi, Uber began cooperating more with regulators and working to improve its data security. Khosrowshahi focused on transparency, making it clear that Uber was committed to handling user data responsibly going forward. This marked a shift from the more aggressive and secretive leadership style of Travis Kalanick. Chapter 8. The CEO steps down. By 2017, the scandal surrounding Uber had reached a breaking point, leading to the resignation of Travis Kalanick, Uber's co-founder and CEO. Although the data breach was a significant factor, it was just one of many controversies that made Kalanick's leadership unsustainable. Kalanick's aggressive win-at-all-costs mentality had helped Uber grow quickly but also created a toxic work environment. The company faced multiple legal battles and scandals, from accusations of workplace harassment to regulatory issues. Susan Fowler's blog post about sexual harassment at Uber exposed the problems within the company, leading to public outrage and an internal investigation. Investors and board members began questioning Kalanick's ability to lead the company through these crises. Uber was preparing for an initial public offering, IPO, but Kalanick's leadership style, coupled with the growing scandals, made investors nervous about the company's future. Under pressure from investors, Kalanick announced his resignation as CEO in June 2017. His departure marked the end of an era for Uber, as the company sought new leadership to repair its damaged reputation. Kalanick remained on Uber's board of directors, but his resignation signaled a shift away from the aggressive culture he had built. Uber's board selected Dara Khosrow-Shahi, the CEO of Expedia, as Kalanick's replacement. Khosrow-Shahi was seen as a more ethical and transparent leader, focused on rebuilding trust with users, drivers, and regulators. His leadership style was a stark contrast to Kalanick's, and he was tasked with leading Uber through its ongoing legal challenges and preparing it for its IPO. Kalanick's departure marked a turning point for Uber, as the company shifted its focus from aggressive growth to rebuilding its internal culture and addressing its many scandals. While Kalanick had played a crucial role in building Uber, his leadership had also contributed to the company's downfall. Chapter 9. Financial Impact and Investor Concerns. Uber's numerous scandals, including the 2016 data breach, had a serious financial impact on the company. Despite being a global leader in the ride-hailing industry, Uber was still losing billions of dollars every year, and the costs of legal settlements and improving data security added to the financial pressure. One of Uber's biggest challenges was its high operating costs. Uber had to pay drivers, maintain its technology infrastructure, and comply with regulations in every city. The company also spent heavily on marketing and promotions to stay ahead of competitors like Lyft. While Uber generated significant revenue, its expenses were even higher. The 2016 data breach made Uber's financial situation worse. In addition to the $148 million settlement, Uber faced legal fees and potential payouts from class action lawsuits. The breach also hurt Uber's reputation, making it harder to attract customers, which further affected the company's revenue. Investors grew increasingly concerned about Uber's ability to turn a profit. While Uber's IPO had long been anticipated, the timing became critical. Investors were nervous about the company's ongoing scandals and losses, which could affect its valuation. They wanted to see a clear plan for profitability before the IPO. Under Dara Khosrow-Shahi's leadership, Uber focused on cutting costs and improving efficiency. Khosrow-Shahi reduced marketing expenses, scaled back expansion in less profitable markets, and introduced new revenue streams like Uber Eats and Uber Freight to diversify the company's business model. Uber's board of directors and key investors, including SoftBank, played an important role in shaping the company's recovery. SoftBank's investment gave Uber the financial resources to weather the storm, but it also came with expectations for better financial discipline and a clear path to profitability. Uber's scandals had a significant impact on its valuation. Before the data breach, Uber was valued at around $70 billion, but after the scandals, its valuation began to decline. Investors were more cautious about putting money into Uber, and the company faced increased pressure to improve its financial performance before going public. Despite these challenges, Uber remained committed to its IPO. Khosrow-Shahi focused on transparency and long-term stability, preparing Uber for a successful public offering. The IPO raised billions in capital, giving Uber the resources to continue expanding and investing in new technologies, even though the road to profitability remained uncertain. Chapter 10. Uber's Road to Recovery. After a period filled with scandals, legal battles, and leadership changes, Uber faced the challenge of rebuilding its reputation and restoring trust with users, drivers, and regulators. Dara Khosrow-Shahi, who took over as CEO in 2017, focused on transforming Uber's culture and improving its business practices to ensure long-term stability. Khosrow-Shahi's leadership was different from Travis Kalanick's. While Kalanick had pushed for aggressive growth, Khosrow-Shahi emphasized transparency, ethical behavior, and accountability. He introduced a company-wide code of conduct to change the toxic culture that had developed under Kalanick's leadership. One of the key areas Khosrow-Shahi focused on was improving Uber's data security. After the 2016 breach, Uber's cybersecurity practices were heavily criticized. To address this, Uber invested in stronger security infrastructure, implemented two-factor authentication, and encrypted all personal data. The company also introduced a data breach notification policy, promising to inform users and regulators immediately if another breach occurred. Rebuilding trust with drivers was another major priority. Many drivers were frustrated after the breach exposed their personal information, and they felt undervalued by the company. Uber launched a campaign called 180 Days of Change, which introduced several driver-friendly features like in-app tipping, paid wait times, and better customer support. Uber also added new safety features in the app, such as emergency assistance and real-time tracking. Legal challenges from the breach and other scandals continued, but Khosrow Shahi worked to resolve these disputes and strengthen relationships with regulators. Uber reached a $148 million settlement with U.S. states over the breach and settled class action lawsuits from drivers and users. Khosrow Shahi also focused on expanding Uber's business beyond ride-hailing. Uber Eats, the company's food delivery service, quickly became a key part of its business, and Uber Freight entered the logistics market. Uber also continued to invest in autonomous vehicle technology, seeing it as the future of transportation. As Uber worked to recover from its past mistakes, it prepared for its initial public offering, IPO. Khosrow Shahi cut costs and focused on improving profitability before taking the company public in 2019. Although the IPO raised billions in capital, Uber's valuation was lower than expected due to its ongoing challenges. Uber's journey to recovery was long and difficult. The company had to confront the fallout from its aggressive past and rebuild trust with its users, drivers, and investors. Under Khosrow Shahi's leadership, Uber became more focused on transparency, security, and sustainability, setting the stage for a more stable future.